Wife cheated with my best friend on our group trip while I was home injured. They sent videos of it. I confronted her, had a revenge affair, then we divorced 4 years ago. My life fell apart. I was 36 at the time and had been married to Chrissy, 35, for 12 years. Together, we had a beautiful 14-year-old daughter, Cora, and lived a comfortable upper middle class life. From the outside, everything seemed perfect. But beneath the surface, cracks were forming cracks. I never noticed until it was too late. I had two best friends, Eric and Mike, who had been part of my life since college. Eric, 34M, was married to Emily, 30, and Mike, 34M, had recently gone through a rough divorce that spring. Through the years, our spouses became close friends too, creating a tight-knit group of 3 couples. We did almost everything together, from barbecues to holidays, and even began a tradition of taking week-long summer vacations. In July 2019, we had another group trip planned. However, fate had other plans. 3 days before the trip, I broke my ankle while jogging. It was a bad break, leaving me non-weight-bearing for 16 weeks. Between the crutches, the pain, and the medication that left me groggy, it was clear I couldn't travel. Chrissy offered to stay behind, but I insisted she go. "You deserve the break," I said. Little did I know, my insistence would lead to the worst decision of my life. So, the trip went ahead without me. Chrissy, Eric, Emily, and Mike headed out, leaving me home to recover. At the time, I felt nothing but trust. After all, these were my closest friends, my chosen family. I thought I had nothing to worry about. The discovery fast forward to December 7th, 2019. That evening, Chrissy was on a weekend shopping trip with Emily, a couple of hours away. They had planned to stay overnight at a hotel. I was at home, taking care of Cora and resting. It was a quiet night until it wasn't. I sent Chrissy a casual Snapchat of our dog. As I often did, I flipped to the Snap map to check where she was. That's when I noticed something strange. Mike's location was in the exact same city as Chrissy. My heart immediately sank. Why would Mike, who lived hours away, be there? My mind jumped to the worst conclusions. Panic set in. I called Chrissy multiple times, but she didn't answer. I sent texts, no response. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe Mike had a valid reason to be there. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. Desperate for answers, I called Eric. I asked him if Emily was with Chrissy. His voice cracked as he said, "Yes, Chrissy picked her up this morning." I felt a momentary wave of relief. But then, his tone shifted. "Mike's with them too," he admitted. My stomach turned. I pressed him for more. That's when he dropped the bombshell. "They're having a threesome." I couldn't speak. My hands were shaking, and my heart raced. I was numb with disbelief. Before I could process this, Eric added, "This isn't the first time Chrissy has been with Mike, and I've been with her too." My world shattered in an instant, the full story fueled by rage. I demanded Eric tell me everything. What he revealed left me spiraling. It started during the July vacation I had missed. On the second day of the trip, after a day of sightseeing and drinks, Chrissy and Mike grew unusually close. Eric and Emily noticed the flirting, but didn't say anything. That night, after dinner, Emily found Chrissy wasn't in her room. Suspicious, she quietly checked Mike's room and heard the unmistakable sounds of her and Mike together. Instead of confronting them, Emily came up with a twisted idea. She had been pushing Eric to try swinging for months, and she saw this as an opportunity. The next morning, Emily approached Chrissy, framing it as a way to escape life for a week. "You've been stressed from work," she said. "This can be our little secret. No one will ever know." Chrissy was hesitant, but eventually agreed. Over the next few days, Mike and Chrissy acted like a couple behind closed doors. sneaking kisses, and holding hands during outings. At night, they spent hours together in his room. Social media posts and Snapchats showed a picture perfect vacation, while the truth was far darker. Then, on the fourth night, Emily pushed things further. She convinced Chrissy to swap partners. Eric reluctantly went along, pressured by Emily. That night, Chrissy was with Eric, while Emily stayed with Mike. Eric admitted to me that he couldn't enjoy it, knowing what was happening down the hall. Chrissy didn't seem into it either, and left midway through the night. By the time the trip ended, everyone swore to keep the events a secret. The fallout hearing this, I felt betrayed on every level. My wife, my best friends, people I trusted most, had conspired against me. I had been blindsided, left in the dark while they carried on as if nothing had happened. When Chrissy returned from her shopping trip with Emily, I confronted her. She broke down and admitted everything. She tried to explain it away as a moment of weakness, a mistake she deeply regretted. But it wasn't a one-time slip. It was a deliberate choice, repeated over days, fueled by betrayal and deceit. For weeks, I couldn't eat or sleep. The betrayal consumed me. I felt humiliated and angry, not just at Chrissy, but at myself for not seeing the signs. At my lowest point, I had a revenge affair. It didn't heal the pain, but it gave me a fleeting sense of control. Ultimately, Chrissy and I divorced. It was a painful process, especially for Cora, who was caught in the middle. I did my best to shield her from the details, but I'm sure she sensed the tension. 4 years later, it's been 4 years since that dark chapter of my life. Time has dulled the pain, but not erased it. I still carry the scars of betrayal, but I've learned to move forward. My focus is on being the best father I can be for Cora and building a life rooted in trust and integrity. Looking back, I realize how fragile trust can be. I never thought my wife and closest friends could betray me like that. But life has a way of surprising you in the worst ways. Betrayal may have broken me temporarily, but it didn't define me. I've come out stronger, wiser, and more determined to surround myself with people who value loyalty and honesty. The betrayal that shattered us, I remember the night Chrissy got back from her vacation. She walked into the house, all smiles, her energy practically radiating as she rushed to check on me. At the time, I thought it was sweet, her eagerness to see me after a week apart. But now I know it was what betrayed spouse call love bombing. It's a calculated move, an over-the-top display of affection meant to distract or make up for guilt. For weeks, Chrissy was attentive, caring, and unusually loving. We had a good marriage, but this was beyond normal. At the time, I thought she was feeling guilty for leaving me at home with a broken ankle, or maybe she was refreshed from her vacation. I never suspected the truth. I never thought the love she showered on me was to cover up an affair. Then Eric, Emily's husband, came into the picture. He contacted me out of the blue one evening, asking if we could meet. His voice was tense, like he was struggling to get the words out. When we finally sat down, he dropped a bomb I wasn't prepared for. Your wife, Chrissy, cheated on you during the vacation, Eric said. The words felt like a punch to the gut. I struggled to process them, my heart pounding in my chest. Eric told me about his wife Emily's insistence on an open relationship after their trip. He had agreed, reluctantly, and on one condition: full transparency. I told her I needed access to all her conversations and messages. I had to know everything. He explained that his request wasn't out of curiosity but strategy. I knew she'd cheated on me, just like Chrissy cheated on you. I needed proof for the divorce I planned to file. At this point, Eric offered to share the messages between Chrissy and Emily. You need to see this, he said. I hesitated, but eventually agreed. The messages painted a clear picture of the betrayal. Emily had been having an affair with a man named Mike for months before the vacation. After Chrissy joined the trip, Emily encouraged her to let loose and enjoy the moment. At first, Chrissy resisted, but Emily's constant pushing wore her down. "It's just one time," Emily had said. "It's not like anyone will find out." There were also photos. Eric had caught Chrissy and Mike kissing and even sneakily recorded a video of them together. The footage was grainy but unmistakable. Her face, her tattoo, her voice, it was all there. When I confronted Chrissy with the evidence, she initially tried to deny everything, but by Sunday night, when she finally came home, she looked defeated, as if she already knew there was no hiding from the truth. "Chrissy, what do you want?" I asked her bluntly. She broke down in tears, trying to hug me. I stepped back, my body rigid with anger and pain. "Don't touch me," I said coldly. Through her sobs, Chrissy begged for forgiveness. "I'm so sorry. I made a mistake. I love you, and I want to fix this," she pleaded. "I don't think that's possible," I replied, "but you owe me an explanation." Over the next 2 hours, Chrissy tried to justify her actions. "I wasn't unhappy in our marriage," she said. I felt trapped in the monotony." The vacation was an escape. It was fun, exciting, and I let the moment take over. Her voice cracked as she continued. "I told myself it didn't matter because it was just one time, but Emily kept encouraging me. She made it sound so normal, so harmless." And then, when Mike joined the conversation, "I don't know. I got caught up in it." Her words cut deeper than I thought possible. "So, you justified it to yourself because you had already cheated once?" I asked, my voice shaking. "Yes," she admitted, her eyes full of tears. "And I hate myself for it. I hate what I've done to us." "Why didn't you come clean when you got back?" I demanded. "I thought I could move past it," Chrissy said. "I thought if I could just focus on us, I could fix what I broke." I didn't believe her. She wasn't trying to fix anything, she was trying to avoid consequences. When I told her I wanted a divorce, Chrissy panicked. She promised to cut off Emily, go to counseling, and give me complete access to her phone and messages. "I'll do whatever it takes. Please, just give me a chance," she begged, but I couldn't do it. The trust was gone, shattered beyond repair. By Monday morning, Chrissy had taken the day off work, hoping to convince me to stay. She pleaded for 1 week, a trial period, to show me she could change. "If, by next Monday, you still feel the same, I'll sign the divorce papers." No contest. Reluctantly, I agreed to the trial, though my mind was already made up. Throughout the week, Chrissy tried everything. She cooked my favorite meals, left me sweet notes, and tried to initiate intimacy efforts I rejected outright. The more she tried, the more annoyed I became. Her actions felt hollow, like desperate attempts to cling to a relationship she had already destroyed. By Friday, her overzealous efforts were unbearable. I found myself counting the hours until I could finally be free. When the trial week ended, Chrissy sat across from me, her eyes filled with hope. "So, do you think we can work this out?" I shook my head. "No, Chrissy, I can't. I've tried to see a way forward, but there's nothing left for me here." Her face crumpled, but I felt no sympathy. This was her doing, her choice. "I'll file for divorce today," I said firmly. Chrissy didn't argue. She simply nodded, tears streaming down her face. As I left the house that day, a weight lifted off my shoulders. The pain was still there, but so was a sense of freedom. I knew it would take time to heal, but I also knew I deserved better. Some betrayals can't be undone, no matter how much someone begs for forgiveness. Chrissy made her choices, and now I was making mine. A tangled path to closure. When Chrissy first confessed her infidelity, it felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. I had suspected something was off, but hearing it from her lips made it real. She admitted that what she'd done had caused an imbalance in our marriage. At first, I wasn't sure what she was implying, but her next words clarified everything. She said we couldn't go on unless we somehow leveled the playing field. Her solution? A trio. I stared at her, stunned. You think that'll fix this? I asked, half laughing in disbelief. How could such a wild idea possibly make things better? It's a way to balance things, she said, her voice hesitant but determined. Her suggestion felt absurd, but she wasn't done. When I rejected the idea outright, she pivoted. What if I give you a week off from the marriage? You can do whatever you want. No strings attached. That idea made me scoff. What's the point of that? I shot back. If you wanted, you could walk out right now and find someone in an hour. For me, it doesn't work that way. Unless you're rich or famous, guys don't just pick up women at bars. She paused, then offered something new. What if I gave you 10 hall passes? They never expire, and you can use them whenever you want. 1 woman, 10 women, it's up to you. I wasn't convinced. Do you really think that wouldn't hurt our relationship? You'd be okay with that? I'll make sure it doesn't impact us, she promised. I'll make an effort to be available to you for anything you need, anything at all. Looking back, I should have walked away right then and there. Her betrayal had already fractured my trust, and her attempts to fix things felt desperate and misguided. But instead of leaving, I stayed, and not for noble reasons. I told myself that if she was willing to offer these things, why not take advantage? It felt like a chance to turn her infidelity into an opportunity for revenge. So, I agreed, but with conditions. I told her that if she couldn't arrange the trio by February 1st, I'd walk. If you're serious, you'll make it happen, I said. To my surprise, Chrissy delivered faster than I expected. Between Christmas and New Year's, she showed me a picture of Tiffany, a stunning 25-year-old from her spin class. We've been chatting for months, Chrissy said casually, as though it was no big deal. How did you convince her? I asked, skeptical. I have my ways, Chrissy replied. My guess? She paid her. By mid-January, the big night was set. Part of me wanted to make it all about me, to focus entirely on Tiffany and let Chrissy feel sidelined. But then I remembered stories I'd read on Reddit about trios gone wrong, where one partner felt excluded or hurt. So I decided to do the opposite. Out of spite, I made sure Chrissy felt included. I complimented her, kept the attention on her, and ensured she didn't feel neglected. To my surprise, it worked. Afterward, Chrissy was practically glowing. She said the experience brought us closer and made her feel like we were reconnecting. Maybe this is exactly what we needed, she said, hopeful. But my feelings hadn't changed. In the weeks that followed, I started using her promises to my advantage. She had committed to being available for my needs, and I made sure she followed through. By mid-February, I was ready to cash in my first hall pass. There was a 27-year-old restaurant manager named Sabrina I'd had my eye on for months. I frequented her restaurant often, and she'd always been a little flirty with me. I asked her out, lying through my teeth. I told her I was 2 months into my divorce and living in the basement while sorting things out. At first, Sabrina seemed hesitant. Later, she admitted that what convinced her was seeing my wedding ring tan line fade. It showed her I wasn't just pretending to be separated. I'd fully committed to taking it off after Chrissy's betrayal. Our first date went well. By our second, things had turned physical. Every time I saw Sabrina, I lied a little more about my marriage, my intentions, and my plans for the future. Meanwhile, Chrissy kept pressing me about marriage counseling. First, I told her I wouldn't go until after the trio. Then I said I needed to go on a date before I'd consider it. Conveniently, the COVID-19 shutdown started just as I ran out of excuses, giving me an easy way to avoid counseling altogether. By April, I was spending most of my free time at Sabrina's apartment. Our relationship had become something more than casual, and I knew it was time to stop pretending with Chrissy. One evening, I sat her down and told her the truth. I still wanted a divorce. She didn't fight me. She seemed exhausted, as though she'd been bracing for this moment all along. I moved out a few weeks later, finding a small two-bedroom house nearby. Together, we told our daughter, Cora, the truth about what had happened. I explained Chrissy's infidelity and my own poor choices in response. I wanted her to understand that both her parents were flawed, but still loved her deeply. We settled on 50-50 custody, alternating weeks with Cora. The divorce was finalized in January 2021. By then, I was still seeing Sabrina, and she and Cora got along well enough. There was no step-parent dynamic between them, just a friendly rapport. Sabrina and I stayed together for 2 years before our relationship ended. I didn't want to remarry or have more kids, and she deserved someone who did. As for Chrissy, she dated a few men here and there, but nothing stuck. That was until this past May, when Cora graduated high school. Chrissy and I ended up sitting next to each other at the ceremony. What should have been awkward wasn't. We laughed, joked, and reminisced about our shared pride in Cora. A week later, I couldn't stop thinking about that day. On a whim, I called Chrissy and asked her out. She hesitated before replying, "Absolutely not unless we go to marriage counseling." Surprisingly, I agreed. We've been seeing a counselor for 6 months now, focusing on rebuilding trust and exploring new dynamics, including ethical non-monogamy. It's been strange, but hopeful. Cora, home from her first semester at college, thinks the whole situation is weird, but supports us as long as we keep the details to ourselves. Life has moved on for the others involved. Eric divorced Emily and moved 4 states away, only to find that Emily's new husband became his boss and blocked his transfer requests. Chrissy reconnected briefly with Emily, who has since remarried and moved away. As for Tiffany, she was paid $250 for her part in the trio, a small, strange footnote in this tangled story. I don't know where things will go from here. Maybe one day, I'll have a happy ending to share, but for now, all I can do is try to move forward, one step at a time.